In tonight's Government Insider, open enrollment season for the federal workforce. It started last week and runs through December 14th. This is a good time to reevaluate the health plan and cost structure that works best for you. For more, I'm joined by Joe Davidson, Federal Diary columnist at the Washington Post. Generally speaking, Joe, will premiums under the FEHB cost more or less next year, and why?
Well, for the average federal employee, his or her costs will go up 7.4% over last year. Now that's quite a bit more than inflation, certainly more than the 1.3% wage increase they expect to get next year. The Office of Personnel Management, which manages the Federal Employees Health Benefits Program, they say that they look at what's going on in the market. They work with insurers in order to try to keep costs down, but that healthcare costs are going up generally, and this is in line with what other private insurers or the private insurance industry is doing.
Now, you're warning feds about one option in that program. It's called Self Plus One. Tell me more.
Well, Self Plus One was designed for the federal employee and one other person, probably a spouse, to get insurance when they don't need insurance for a larger family. Generally speaking, until now, you had the option for single coverage and family coverage. Well, if there's just two people in the family, the Self Plus One would seem to make more sense financially than the family coverage. However, a number of people were surprised to learn that Self Plus One, in some cases, can be more expensive than the family coverage.
Well, now, what does age have to do with all this, too?
Well, age is an important factor here because many of the Self Plus One households are older people. Their kids are grown and gone, and their children are no longer eligible for their employer-related coverage. But older people are frankly more expensive. The older you get, the more health care you need, the more medicine you need, the more tests you need, and so it simply costs more to insure older people. Now, a number of older people, though, have said, yes, but Medicare covers a lot of this. And I asked some experts about this, and the fact of the matter is that the Medicare doesn't really cover all of the drugs that can be very expensive for older people. And so when you have a private insurer, such as an insurance company through FEHBP, they will pick up those or cover those drugs, but that still increases the cost for the Self Plus One option. So the bottom line is you need to shop around, and you'll find that sometimes Self Plus One is more expensive, but it's largely related to the fact that older people cost more to insure than younger people, even when you take into account Medicare.
It all makes sense, Joe. No one likes it when the cost of their health plan goes up. That said, how do federal health care plans compare to those offered by the private sector?
Well, according to the Office of Personnel Management, they did a survey, and it seems as if the cost for federal employees' health insurance is basically in line with what you will find around the country. I do think that OPM does make a concerted effort to try to keep the cost down through negotiations with private insurers. There's some 252 in the whole plan, although not everybody can make a choice among those 252. But federal employees do have a broad choice of insurance companies to look at, and so they can make some informed decisions on which way to go. But OPM does look at what other companies are charging or what the private sector is charging, and they do try to keep their increases in line with the private sector.
Now, when we talk about the private sector, federal employees, does Obamacare come into factor or have any impact on this from what you've seen now compared to 5 years ago?
Well, no more than for anyone else. It's not as if federal employees get some sort of special break or are penalized in any way because of Obamacare. The Affordable Care Act would apply to federal employees depending on their situation, just like others. Although certainly it is certainly true that if you're a federal employee, then you can enroll in the Federal Employee Health Benefits Program, and so you would not need some of the rights or privileges under the Affordable Care Act that are designed for people who are not insured privately.
All good points of information tonight. Joe Davidson, Federal Diary columnist at the Washington Post. Thanks, Joe.
Thank you.